Hey everyone, welcome back to the Daily Try. This is my top takeaways from the Nice Ironman World Championship race. Let me know yours down below, of course, but diving into it, and my first one, this really did feel like a World Championship event. That venue and course looked spectacular. I couldn't believe as I was watching it, I found myself thinking, you know what? I think I could die happy if I qualified for the Ironman World Champs and raced in Nice instead of Kona. And I never thought I'd say that with all the tradition and history in Kona. But I think I would be satisfied racing there. And I think it would have to take a course like that for me to say so. And I definitely do plan on racing Kona still. But I think Ironman pulled off a great race there. And all the stories I've heard from age groupers who did race, they felt the same. So if you were there, let me know if that's not the case. I would really love to know so I don't have to plan on qualifying to going there. But yeah, it looked fantastic. And on that note, Sam Laidlow's win, because it wasn't in Kona, didn't feel like any less of achievement. I don't think it's necessary for them to win in Kona anymore. I think everybody respected him even more for winning on that course and becoming the first Ironman World Champion in Nice. I couldn't take my eyes away from it as I should have been going to sleep quite late at night. But that leads me on to my second takeaway, and that is that those who did well here spent the time and energy and money they needed on preparing for this course specifically. And I think the women will really learn from the men here, and we might see a lot of the women come out a few months beforehand or maybe do several training camps in Nice if they want to do well. If they want to get a top 5, I think they will have to. I think they'll have to go to Magnus Dit levels of preparation, shaving as much weight as possible, focusing all in on that bike leg, because what Sam did to the rest of the field really set him up for that win. And you know, if there's any runners in the women's field like Chelsea Sodaro, Laura Phillip, that will be running them down, they're gonna want as much time on that bike as possible. But that leads me onto a bit of a hot take, and that is I think a lot of athletes might not choose to race this race again after they really suffered on those climbs. And on the flip side, I think a lot of athletes loved it and might choose not to race Kona and just focus specifically on this race, especially because it requires so much energy and preparation. Let me know what you guys think below. Will this dilute the Ironman World Championships, having it in such different locations that suit different skills? For me personally, I love it because we saw, for example, 7 of the top 15 athletes were really not the favorites. I just love seeing that, and new names getting a chance to shine. So that leads me on to number 3, viewership. Now, the viewership numbers were quite a bit lower than I thought they were going to be. 100,000 less than the race in Kona, and also the Kona race had Ironman Now, which gave you the option of watching different camera angles of the race, which I really think they missed at this race. Unfortunately, I don't think there was enough access to media motos with the Ironman Hamburg incident. But yeah, so it looked like the numbers were down, even though this was Jan's last Kona, and I think Ironman did a lot more media leading into the race, tried to promote it as much as possible. But I think, yeah, the Kona just attracts a lot more, but also because I think there's just been so many championship races that took away a little bit from this race being so early on in the season. Like, I'm sitting here today almost feeling weird that the men's world championship's already over. It feels too early in the season. Thankfully, we've got the women's race, which I think is going to be epic in Kona to come. But on that note, the broadcast I thought was great. The shots were amazing. But I think when it's just either the men or the women, it makes it tough because Ironman has to fill the time with something. And unfortunately, I think they fill it with a bit too many ads. And yeah, some people don't enjoy the commentary when it's just filler commentating, and I don't blame them. I've tried commentating myself, and it is very difficult. So overall, I thought they did an awesome job with the broadcast, but yeah, numbers were a little bit lower. Moving on from there, penalties. Again, taking a few headlines away from the race. Braden Curry, Bradley Weiss looked like they were really hard done by. Braden Curry for sure, because his protest was overturned, otherwise he would have been disqualified. He got a tough littering call on him. Bradley Weiss believes he was wrong for his penalty, as he was given a drafting penalty going up some switchbacks at 10 kilometers an hour. From what I've read about it, he seems pretty justified in being upset. It looks like Ironman do care though. The pro briefing was apparently pretty heated and really long. Braden Curry also believes they want to change some of this. I've seen a lot of people upset with the fact that the rules are not so black and white. For example, with the center line, like they may or may not be disqualified. But I think that's a good thing at times. I think the referees should use more discretion versus a lot of black and white calls. Now on the flip side, I also believe that there should be a lot of black and white rules that are made a lot clearer in the rule book, for example, with fairings on the bike. So moving on from there, number 5, the segregation of the men and the women. That is the one thing I don't agree with still, and I've heard a lot of the same sentiment from those who were there, including Jan Frodeno, who did a great video with GTN where he talks about it himself, how he just doesn't agree with it. In fact, he called it a stupid argument from Ironman for calling it an equality thing where women get their own day and their own location because it's a family sport and it's always been the most equal sport. I totally agree with him. I've also heard him call it a testosterone fest and some other names I've heard people call it I'm not going to repeat here. But the expo and vibe I've heard wasn't as good as in Kona with everyone there, and the large city swallowed it up a little bit. So I think that was the only drawback I feel about Nice, and I really hope, like Jan, that they bring the men and the women back together and they find a different way of rotating to the destinations with both of them. So it makes me wonder though how it will be in Kona for the women. I've heard a lot of brands might not make the trip out to Kona because it's just so expensive, and with only just the women there's not as many athletes to expose themselves to. So yeah, it would be interesting to see how the vibe changes. I will be there in person. I've booked my tickets. Can't wait to go. I think it's going to be one of the best races of all time for the women on that day. So make sure you stay tuned for that and I'll keep you posted. But that's it. Those are my top 5 takeaways. Thank you so much for watching. And next up is the news. Have a good one. Thank you for watching the video. If you're new around here, then don't forget to subscribe. This channel is all about helping triathlon become a huge sport through weekly news videos, highlights, motivational videos, race reporting, and anything else you can think of, with a splash of my own triathlon journey thrown in. The goal is for this to become the YouTube hub for everything professional triathlon, and I would love to do it full time to give back to you and create an amazing community. To help me do that, I need you to get behind me by supporting me for the price of a gel on either Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee. You can also join in on the conversation on Discord and follow me on Instagram. The more support, the more content. And don't forget, it's simple. Try every day. We'll see you in the next one.